Vivienne Moreau forgot to hang up at 417 on a Thursday afternoon. That was the mistake that destroyed her. Not the diamonds she wore to hide her hunger. Not the angelic smile she practiced in mirrors. Not the ivory dress already hanging in the East Guest Suite like a promise of power. All of that might have fooled the family. The servants. The guests. Even the newspapers waiting to call her the future Mrs. Virelli. But the phone stayed open. And on the other end of that quiet line, Dominic Virelli listened. He listened from the back seat of a black SUV parked beside Newport Harbor. His expression unreadable. His hand resting still against his knee, while the rain slid down the tinted window in silver veins. Beside him, his men said nothing. No one spoke when Dominic was listening like that. No one wanted to breathe too loudly near a man whose silence could end lives. Through the speaker, Vivienne's voice changed. Only minutes earlier, she had sounded sweet. Your mother is resting. Darling, she had told him. Maren is with her. Everything will be perfect tomorrow night. Then there had been a soft click. The careless sound of a phone being placed on a table. Vivienne thought the call had ended. It had not. Dominic heard a door close. He heard the faint rustle of silk. He heard his mother's breathing machine hum softly in the background. Then he heard another voice, Maren Hayes. His mother's caregiver. Quiet, but firm. I won't lie for you. For the first time that afternoon, Dominic moved. His eyes lifted. Vivienne laughed. But there was nothing beautiful in it now. You will, she said. Tomorrow night. When Dominic asks for his mother's blessing, you will tell him Isabella accepts me. She does not accept you. She cannot speak. She can answer. And you are her voice. Vivienne's tone sharpened into something cold enough to cut glass. So you will make her say yes. There was a pause. Dominic could almost see the room in his mind, his mother seated by the tall arched window overlooking the grey Atlantic. Her silver hair pinned low. Her writing board on her lap. Her tired hands trembling with fury. No one else had bothered to read. He could see Maren standing beside her in that plain navy caregiver's dress. Soft body, stiff with fear. Dark curls pinned badly because she never took enough time for herself. Then Vivienne said the sentence that turned the air inside the SUV lethal. Unless you want your son to disappear from school tomorrow. One of Dominic's guards looked at him. Dominic did not look back. His gaze stayed on the phone. Vivienne continued. Softer. Now. Almost amused. Blue backpack. Red inhaler clipped to the side pocket. He waits near the side gate because he likes watching the neighbor's dog through the fence. Children are very easy to find when their mothers are predictable. There was a small sound then. Not a scream. Maren did not scream. Dominic had noticed that about her. She was the kind of woman who swallowed pain before it became noise. The kind who had learned that survival often meant not giving cruel people the satisfaction of seeing exactly where they had hurt you. But he heard her breath break. And something inside him went still in a way that frightened the men beside him more than rage would have. Vivienne kept speaking. If you expose me, I will say you misunderstood Isabella. I will say you planted fear in her head. I will say a lonely servant wanted to feel important in a house where she does not belong. Her voice lowered. Dominic will believe his fiancée before he believes a hired woman with bills to pay. Maren whispered. You don't know him. No. Vivian said. You don't. Then came the sound of wood being taken away. Dominic knew that sound. His mother's writing board. Vivian's voice turned cruel. Naked. Triumphant. No more little messages. No more warnings. Tomorrow. You sit there and let Maren save her son by giving me what I want. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of ruin. Then Vivian gasped. A second later, Dominic heard her whisper his name. Dominic. He ended the call. The screen went black in his hand. For a long moment, no one in the SUV moved. Outside, the harbor lights flickered through rain and fog. A yacht bell rang somewhere in the distance. Newport looked peaceful in weather like that. Old money tucked behind iron gates. Cliffside mansions glowing against a stormy sky. But beneath that polished surface, Dominic Virelli's world had just shifted. His fiancée had threatened a child. His mother had been trapped in silence inside his own house. And Maren Hayes had been standing between them alone. Dominic handed the phone to Carlo. His oldest guard, Elias. He said calmly, 9 years old. Astute. Anne's Academy. Blue backpack. Asthma medication in the side pocket. Carlo's face changed. Boss, get to the school before Moreau's men do. Yes. Sir. No scene. No panic. No one touches the boy. Carlo was already opening the door before Dominic finished speaking. Dominic turned to the driver. Back to the mansion. The driver pulled away from the curb. Only then did Dominic look at the rain again. His reflection stared back from the dark window black suit. Dark eyes. Controlled face. The kind of face men feared because it gave nothing away. But beneath the stillness, something old and brutal opened inside him. He had built walls around his mother after the attack that stole her voice. He had filled the mansion with guards, doctors, cameras, locks, expensive specialists, expensive silence. He had believed money could make a room safe. And, still, a woman wearing his ring had reached his mother first. Worse, she had reached her because Dominic had trusted beauty when he should have trusted fear. By the time the SUV climbed the private road to the Virelli estate, the sky had darkened over the cliffs. The mansion rose from the rocks like a stone palace built for secrets, white columns, black iron gates, lanterns glowing in the rain, waves breaking far below against the jagged shore. The kind of house people photographed from tourist boats and whispered about afterward. The kind of house no one entered unless Dominic allowed it. Maren Hayes had entered 6 months earlier through the servants' gate with a second-hand purse, tired eyes, and a resume folded too carefully in her hand. She had not looked like anyone who belonged in that house. That was why Dominic remembered her. The first morning he saw her, she was standing outside his mother's bedroom with a cup of tea in one hand and a small alphabet board in the other. She was plus size, soft around the hips and stomach, with warm brown eyes that avoided his until she realized avoiding him made her look afraid. Then she forced herself to meet his gaze. Most people lowered their heads around Dominic. Maren looked at him like she was frightened. Yes, but not empty. His mother, Isabella Virelli, sat beside the window in her blue shawl, watching them both. Dominic had asked, "Does she understand my mother?" The housekeeper had answered, "She says she does." Maren's chin lifted slightly. I don't say I understand her, she corrected. I say I'm learning how she chooses to speak. The room had gone silent. A maid behind her had stared at the floor. One of Dominic's guards had shifted his weight, waiting to see whether the new caregiver had just signed her own dismissal. Dominic had looked at Maren for a long second. Then his mother tapped twice against the arm of her chair. Yes, that had been enough. From then on, Maren became the only person in the house Isabella consistently allowed near her. She learned that 2 taps meant yes. 1 tap meant no. A finger pressed to the silver cross at Isabella's throat meant someone was lying. A closed fist meant pain. Her eyes shifting toward the door meant she wanted privacy. A slow blink meant a memory had found her. A hand flat on the blanket meant exhaustion. Dominic had watched Maren learn his mother's language with a patience he had not known existed inside that mansion anymore. She never rushed Isabella. She never spoke over her. She never treated silence as absence. And Dominic, who had spent years commanding rooms with a few quiet words, began to understand that he had failed the one silence that mattered most. At first, he told himself his attention to Maren was practical. His mother trusted her. That made Maren important. Nothing more. But then he began noticing small things he had no reason to notice. How Maren wore the same black shoes until the heels gave out. How she brought her own lunch in containers wrapped with rubber bands. How she smiled at his mother with tired tenderness. Then lost the smile the moment she stepped into the hallway. How she never took gifts from the staff kitchen unless someone insisted she bring leftovers home for Eli. Eli, her son. Dominic had heard about the boy before he met him. Maren never spoke of herself. But she spoke of Eli when Isabella asked about him through the board. 9 years old. Asthma, loved ocean documentaries. Hated onions. Asked too many questions. Called the mansion the castle where nobody laughs. Dominic had almost smiled when he heard that. Almost. Then Vivienne arrived. Vivienne Moreau was the kind of woman men confused with destiny because she knew how to enter a room like it had been built for her. She came from an old crime family dressed in charitable foundations and European art boards. Her father controlled ports. Her uncle controlled judges. Her cousins controlled men who wore gloves for reasons no polite person asked about. A marriage between Dominic Varelli and Vivienne Moreau would join 2 families that had distrusted each other for 20 years. It would calm a war. It would secure the harbor routes. It would make every enemy in Rhode Island think twice before moving against either name. That was what everyone said. Dominic knew better than to believe in simple peace. Still, he had agreed to the engagement because his empire was tired. His men were restless. And his mother had been too quiet for too long. He told himself marriage was strategy. Vivienne was beautiful. Educated. Composed. Useful. She did not demand tenderness from him. She seemed content with power. And when she kissed Isabella's cheek in front of him and called her Mama Isabella, Dominic had allowed himself the smallest, most dangerous thing. Relief. He wanted peace in his house. He wanted to believe that one woman could sit beside his mother without becoming another threat he would have to destroy. But Isabella never touched Vivienne willingly. Dominic saw that too late. Maren had seen it on the first day. Vivienne had seen Maren see it. That was when the war between them began. Not with shouting. Not with threats at first. With little cruelties. Vivienne would move the water glass 2 inches too far from Isabella's hand. She would ask Maren, in front of others. Whether women of your size became tired more easily. She would touch Dominic's arm whenever Marin translated Isabella's refusal, as if to remind the room whose hand wore the ring. And when Dominic left, Vivienne's smile disappeared, like a mask removed after a performance. "You're very devoted," she once told Marin while Isabella sat stiffly by the fireplace. Marin folded a blanket. "She deserves devotion. She is cared for. There is a difference." Vivienne's eyes sharpened. "Careful, in houses like this. Women who think they are morally superior usually discover they are only replaceable." Marin said nothing. She had learned long ago that not every battle was won by answering. Before the mansion, her life had been smaller and harder. She had grown up above her aunt's laundromat in Fall River, Massachusetts, where the pipes rattled in winter and money always ran out before the month did. Her mother cleaned offices at night. Her father left when Marin was 12 and returned only once to ask for money. Once to borrow a car he never brought back. By 25, Marin had built a quiet life out of ordinary sacrifices. She worked in an elder care center. She shared an apartment with her younger sister, Lila. She was engaged once to a man named Andrew who liked her softness until it became inconvenient, liked her kindness until it asked something of him. Then Lila died in a car accident on a wet road outside Providence, leaving behind a baby boy with dark hair and lungs too fragile for winter. Everyone had advice. Her fiancé told her they could help from a distance. His mother told her motherhood would ruin her figure, her freedom, her marriage prospects. A social worker asked whether she had considered other family placements. Marin took Eli home. Andrew left. Marin cried once in the bathroom, while Eli slept in a laundry basket lined with towels because she could not afford a crib yet. Then she washed her face, warmed his bottle, and became a mother without asking the world's permission. After that, love became something she measured by what it demanded. If a man wanted her but not Eli, he wanted the wrong woman. If a job paid well but treated her like she had no spine, she stayed until rent was paid, then left. If the world mocked her body, her age, her tired eyes, she let it talk. Eli's inhalers mattered more than strangers' opinions. The Varelli mansion paid better than any care home, so she stayed, even when the gates made her nervous, even when the guards watched too closely, even when Dominic Varelli's presence turned every hallway into a held breath. She stayed for Eli. Then Vivienne found that out. The first black car appeared outside Stintfirst. Anne's on a Tuesday. Marin noticed it when she picked Eli up. Matte black sedan, Rhode Island plates. A man in sunglasses sitting inside, though the sky was cloudy. He watched the school gate with the lazy patience of someone paid not to look away. Marin held Eli's hand too tightly. "Ow. Mom. Sorry. Baby. Are you mad?" "No." That was the first lie. By Thursday, the car had appeared twice more. By Thursday afternoon, Vivienne had said Eli's name. Now, as Dominic entered the mansion through the front doors, Marin was still upstairs in Isabella's room, trying not to shake. Vivienne had left 20 minutes earlier after discovering the call. She had not screamed. That frightened Marin more. Screaming meant panic. Silence meant planning. Isabella sat by the window with her writing board back in her lap. Her hands trembled as she wrote one word. Ellie. Maren knelt beside her chair. I don't know, she whispered. Isabella's face changed not with pity, but with rage so pure it seemed to give strength to her frail body. She tapped once against the board. No, I know. Maren's voice broke. I know. I should have told him. Isabella lifted a trembling hand and touched Maren's cheek. Then she wrote slowly, Good mother afraid. Maren covered her mouth. For days she had hated herself for being afraid. Afraid women always looked weak from the outside. But Isabella, who had survived the kind of violence that stole speech from the body and safety from the soul, understood fear differently. Fear was not failure. Fear was the body trying to keep love alive. A knock came at the door. Maren stood quickly. Dominic entered without guards. That alone made her stomach twist. He always came to his mother alone. But tonight he did not look like a son visiting. He looked like a storm that had learned manners. His black coat was damp from rain. His dark hair was slightly wet. His face was calm in a way that made the room colder. Isabella's sighs found him. Dominic stopped halfway to her chair. For 1 second. No one moved. Then he knelt in front of his mother and bowed his head. Mama, he said, his voice low. I heard. Isabella closed her eyes. Not in relief. In grief. Dominic took her hand. I heard enough. Maren stood near the window, unable to breathe properly. Dominic looked up at her. There was anger in his eyes, but not at her. That almost made it worse. Your son is safe. The words hit Maren so hard she reached for the window frame. What? Carlo is at his school. Eli is with the principal. No one will release him to anyone but you or my men. My men, her voice sharpened before she could stop it. Fear made her bold. He is a child, not a package to secure. Dominic held her gaze. Most men in his world would have punished that tone. He did not. You rewrite, he said. The answer disarmed her. He stood slowly. You will call him yourself. You will speak to him. Then you will tell me everything Vivienne did in this house. Maren's lips parted, but no sound came. Dominic looked at his mother, then back at her. Not because I command it, he said, because I failed to see what happened under my roof. And I will not fail again. The phone call with Eli was short. Too short. His small voice came through the line. Confused but cheerful. Mom, a scary tall man bought me a sandwich. Maren closed her eyes. Are you okay? Yeah. He said you were busy, and that I should stay with Sister Margaret until you call again. Good. Stay there. Don't leave with anyone else. Is this because of the lady with the shiny earrings? Maren's blood chilled. What lady? The one who asked if I was your son yesterday. She smelled like flowers, but not good flowers. Maren's eyes opened. Dominic was watching her. His face did not change, but the air around him did. Ellie, she said carefully, listen to me. You are safe. I love you. Stay with Sister Margaret. Okay. Love you too. When the call ended, Maren's hand would not stop shaking. Dominic reached toward her, then stopped before touching her. That almost touch stayed in the space between them, like a match not yet struck. Tell me, he said. So she did. Not cleanly, not bravely, Truth came out of her in broken pieces. Vivienne moving the board. Vivienne whispering in Isabella's ear. Vivienne asking whether Isabella's signs could be misread. The black car. The school gate. The threats. The way Isabella had tried to warn him by touching her cross again and again while Vivienne smiled beside him. Dominic listened without interrupting. Only once did his composure crack. When Marin said, "She called your mother a silent burden." Dominic turned away and placed one hand against the wall. For a moment, he looked less like a mafia boss than a man holding back something violent enough to frighten even himself. Isabella tapped twice. Dominic turned back. His mother lifted the board with great effort. Not Marin's fault. Dominic read it. His jaw tightened. "I know." Marin looked down. "You should blame me a little," she whispered. "I lied when you asked if your mother was tired. She wasn't tired. She was terrified." "Yes," Dominic said. The word hurt. Then he added, "And Vivienne knew where your child waited after school." Marin's eyes burned. "I thought if I survived one more day, I could find a way out. Women should not have to survive inside my house." "No," she said, quietly but sharply. "They shouldn't." The silence after that was dangerous in a different way. Dominic looked at her as if she had struck him somewhere deeper than pride. Then Isabella tapped the board. "Tomorrow." Dominic turned to his mother. "Yes," he said. "Tomorrow." Marin understood and stepped back. "No." Dominic looked at her. "You want to expose Vivienne at the dinner." "I want my mother to speak. She'll come for Eli again. She won't reach him." "You don't know that." Dominic stepped closer. Marin forced herself not to retreat. Though every instinct told her that men like him were not safe when they came too near. He smelled faintly of rain, leather, and smoke. His presence filled the room until even the shadows seemed to belong to him. "I know exactly what kind of woman Vivienne is now," he said. "That makes her less dangerous." "No," Marin whispered. "That makes her desperate." Something like approval moved through his eyes. "You understand danger better than most men I employ." "I understand, mothers," she said. "And I understand women who smile while hiding knives." Dominic's gaze dropped briefly to her trembling hands. This time, he did touch her. Only 2 fingers beneath her wrist, steadying the pulse that betrayed her. Marin froze. The touch was not romantic. Not yet. It was too controlled, too careful, too aware of everything he could be and everything she feared. But it was the first time in years that someone powerful touched her like she was not something to move. "Use or dismiss. Your son is under my protection," Dominic said. "I didn't ask for that." "No, you earned it when you protected my mother." "I protected her because she deserved it." "That is why you earned it." Marin looked away first. She hated how much she wanted to believe him. The next morning, the mansion woke like a theater before a tragedy. Florists arrived at dawn, with white roses and blue hydrangeas. Caterers carried silver trays through the service entrance. Guards checked guest lists twice. Men in dark suits walked the grounds beneath umbrellas, speaking into hidden microphones. The dining hall glittered with chandeliers, gold-rimmed plates, crystal glasses, and enough candles to make every lie look holy. Vivienne moved through it all in a cream silk dress, her hair pinned perfectly, her smile soft enough to make foolish people forgive almost anything. When she entered Isabella's room, Marin was fastening the silver clasp at the old woman's throat. Vivienne's eyes found Marin in the mirror. "How is Eli?" Marin's fingers stilled for half a second. Isabella's gaze sharpened. "Safe," Marin said. Vivienne's smile twitched. "For now." Marin turned around. "Safe," she repeated. This time, the word had steel in it. Vivienne studied her. She was clever enough to sense something had changed, but arrogant enough to believe fear would return when needed. She stepped closer to Isabella and touched the old woman's shoulder. "Tonight will be beautiful," she said. "All you have to do is sit there and let your caregiver speak for you." Isabella lifted one finger and tapped once against the arm of her chair. "No." Vivienne's eyes flashed. "Still," she smiled. "Stubbornness is unbecoming at your age." Marin moved between them before she could think better of it. "She needs rest before dinner." Vivienne looked at her body first, then her face. A slow insult without words. "You forget your place." Marin's heart pounded. For years, that sentence had worked on her. Employers said it with smaller words. Men said it with softer mouths. Rich women said it with perfume and pity. But something had changed when Dominic heard the call. No, not because he heard it, because Marin had heard herself say no before she knew anyone powerful was listening. "I know my place," she said. Vivienne's smile faded. Marin opened the door. "And it is not beneath you." For one sharp second, Vivienne looked ugly. Then footsteps sounded in the hall. Dominic entered. Vivienne's face transformed instantly. "Darling," she said, reaching for him. Dominic looked at her hand before it touched his sleeve. She stopped. It was a tiny moment, but Marin saw it. Isabella saw it. Vivienne saw that they saw it. Dominic walked past his fiancée and knelt before his mother. "Mama," he said. Isabella touched his face. He closed his eyes. "I should have listened before," he said quietly. "Tonight, no one speaks for you unless you choose it. Not Marin. Not me. No one." Isabella's eyes filled. She reached for the board. Marin placed it in her lap. Isabella wrote slowly, "Boy safe." Dominic nodded. "Yes, Eli is safe." Then Isabella wrote another word. "Vivienne." Dominic's face hardened. "Tonight," he said. Vivienne gave a small laugh. Too thin to be convincing. "Is this some private family drama I should know about?" Dominic stood. His voice was calm. "No. You'll hear it with everyone else." By sunset, the storm had returned. Rain struck the tall windows of the dining hall while guests arrived beneath black umbrellas. The Moreau family came dressed in old money arrogance, Vivienne's father with a silver cane he did not need, her mother with pearls at her throat, her brothers smiling like wolves, invited indoors. The Varelli side watched them without warmth. Every alliance in the room had a price. Every smile had a blade behind it. Marin entered beside Isabella, one hand on the back of the wheelchair, the writing board resting across Isabella's lap. She wore a simple dark green dress, Dominic had ordered delivered that afternoon after hearing one of the maids whisper that Maren's uniform was not appropriate for dinner. Maren had almost refused it. Then she saw Isabella tap twice in approval. The dress fit her in ways she was not used to allowing clothes to fit her. It did not hide her body. It honored it. Soft fabric at her waist. Sleeves that framed her arms. A neckline, modest but elegant. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman who still looked tired, still looked afraid, but no longer looked invisible. Dominic saw her when she entered. His gaze paused. Not long. Long enough. Maren felt it like heat across the room. Vivienne saw that too. Her fingers tightened around her champagne glass. Dinner began with polite lies. Toasts to unity, to family, to the future, to peace. Maren stood behind Isabella's chair, listening to powerful people speak of loyalty while waiting for a woman's silence to be exploited. Dominic sat at the head of the table. Expression unreadable. Vivienne sat at his right, radiant in ivory. A ring glittered on her finger, the Virelli engagement ring. Black diamond, surrounded by white stones. An heirloom older than most grudges in the room. Every few minutes. Vivienne looked at Maren. Remember your son. Maren looked at Isabella. Isabella looked back. Together. Near the end of dinner, Dominic stood. The room quieted instantly. Rain tapped against the glass like impatient fingers. My family knows why we are here, Dominic said. His voice was not loud, but it carried. Before I marry, my mother gives her blessing. Without it, there is no marriage. Vivienne smiled. A perfect smile. The kind made for photographs, society pages, and fools. Dominic stepped away from the head of the table and approached Isabella. Maren's hands tightened around the chair. Dominic knelt. Mama, he said, do you bless my marriage to Vivienne Moreau? The whole room seemed to stop breathing. Vivienne turned her head slightly. Her eyes found Maren. Now, Maren's mouth went dry. For one terrible moment. She saw Eli outside the school gate. Blue backpack, red inhaler. His small face searching the crowd for her. She saw the black car. She saw every way the world could punish a mother for choosing truth. Then she felt Isabella's hand cover hers. Fragile, warm, trembling, but certain. Maren stepped forward. Mrs. Virelli will speak for herself. A murmur moved through the room. Vivienne laughed lightly. She is tired. This has been an emotional week. Maren can tell us what she means. Dominic did not look at Vivienne. He looked at Maren. No command, no pressure, only a quiet nod. The choice is yours. Maren placed the board in Isabella's lap and gave her the pen. Isabella's hand shook violently. For one agonizing second, nothing happened. Vivienne seized the moment. See, she can barely hold it. Her voice softened for the audience. We should not humiliate her. Dominic said 2 words. We wait. The room fell silent again. Isabella pressed the pen down. Slowly. Painfully. She wrote 1 word. No. Someone gasped. Vivienne stood too quickly. Her chair scraping against marble. She is confused. Isabella kept writing. No blessing. The room erupted in whispers. Vivienne's face tightened. Maren did this. she snapped. That woman has been filling your mother's head with poison. She wants power in this house. Isabella's hand moved again. Vivienne hurt me. Vivienne's mother stood. This is absurd. Isabella wrote one more line. Maren protected me. Maren's throat closed. Vivienne turned on her with tears already shining. Perfect tears. Nico. Darling. Please. She reached for him. Your mother is not well. Maren has manipulated her. She's lonely. She wants to feel important. You know how women like her become when they taste attention. Maren flinched despite herself. Dominic saw it. His face went colder. Vivienne stepped closer. Desperate now. She hates me because I am marrying you. She knows once I am your wife. She goes back to being what she is. Dominic finally looked at her. And what is she? Vivienne hesitated. Too late. She realized. The trap. Dominic lifted one hand. Carlo stepped forward and placed a small black recorder on the table. Vivienne's face lost color. Dominic. She whispered. He pressed play. Vivienne's own voice filled the dining hall. Tomorrow night, when Dominic asks for his mother's blessing, you will tell him, Isabella accepts me. Maren's recorded voice answered. Shaking but clear, I won't lie for you. Vivienne's voice returned. Unless you want your son to disappear from school tomorrow. The room froze. The recording continued. Blue backpack. Red inhaler. Side gate. Children are easy to find. A woman at the table covered her mouth. One of Vivienne's brothers lunged halfway from his seat before Virelli guards appeared behind him like shadows given bodies. Vivienne stared at the recorder as if it had become a loaded gun. Then came the final sentence. You are a hired woman with bills to pay. I am his fiancée, and Isabella cannot speak. Dominic stopped the recording. Silence. Not quiet. Silence. The kind that changes ownership of a room. Vivienne looked around and understood that beauty had failed her. Still, she tried to survive. I was angry, she said quickly. I didn't mean it. She provoked me. She has been against me since the beginning. Dominic's voice was calm. You threatened a child. I was emotional. You abused my mother. Vivienne shook her head. No. No. I only wanted her to accept me. I love you. Isabella tapped once. No. That single tap cut harder than shouting. Dominic looked at his mother. Then at Vivienne. My mother heard the lie in you before I did. Vivienne's tears stopped being beautiful. I did all of this because I was afraid of losing you. Dominic stepped closer. You never had me. Her face crumpled. He took her hand. For one wild second, she thought he was forgiving her. Then he removed the Virelli ring from her finger. Slowly, publicly. Finally, get her out of my house. Vivienne screamed then. Not words at first, just rage. Her family shouted. Chairs crashed back. Moreau men reached inside jackets and stopped when they realized every Virelli guard in the room already had them marked. Vivienne pointed at Maren as Carlo and another guard took her arms. You ruined everything. Maren's knees shook, but she did not look away. No, she said, louder than she felt. You did. Vivienne was dragged through the doors beneath the chandeliers she had hoped would shine over her future. When she was gone, the room did not recover. It fractured. Guests whispered. Moreau relatives argued. Dominic's uncle demanded immediate retaliation. Someone mentioned police. Someone else mentioned blood debts. The storm outside slammed rain against the windows, as if the sea itself had come to witness the collapse. Dominic ignored them all. He knelt before Isabella in the center of the hall, in front of family, rivals, servants, guards, and enemies. The most feared man in Newport took his mother's hands and bowed his head. "Forgive me," he said. Isabella stared at him for a long time. Then she lifted one trembling hand and touched his cheek. Tap, tap. Yes. Dominic closed his eyes. Marin looked away. Some moments were too intimate for a crowded room. Later that night, after the guests had been removed, and the Moreau family had been escorted beyond the gates under heavy guard, Marin found Dominic in the corridor outside Isabella's room. His tie was loosened. His jacket was gone. The controlled mask had cracks in it now. "She's asleep," Marin said. He nodded. "Ellie?" With Rosa in the guest suite. He ate 3 pieces of cake and asked if mafia mansions always have dessert during emergencies. For the first time all night, Dominic almost smiled. Almost. Then he looked at Marin. "You were brave." She leaned against the wall, exhausted enough to be honest. "No, I was terrified." Bravery is not the absence of fear. That sounds like something powerful men say after women like me. Take the risk. The words left her before she could stop them. Dominic looked at her. Marin braced herself. Then he lowered his eyes. "You were right." That answer unsettled her more than anger would have. Men like Dominic were not supposed to admit when a woman in a borrowed dress told them the truth. "What happens now?" she asked. "To Vivienne. To all of us." His gaze moved to Isabella's closed door. "The Moreaus will deny what they can. Then they'll retaliate." Marin's stomach tightened. "So it's not over?" "No." She almost laughed. Of course it was not over. In fairy tales, the villain was dragged away and the house became safe by morning. In real life, cruelty had cousins, contracts, bank accounts, and men with guns. Dominic looked back at her. "Your son remains protected. He is not joining your world." "No." "I mean it." "So do I." Marin studied him. There was no softness in his face now. No romantic promise. No easy comfort. Just a dangerous man making a decision the world would have to respect. That should have frightened her. It did. But beneath the fear, something else moved. A strange, reluctant trust. The retaliation came 3 days later. Not at the mansion, at the edge of town. On a narrow coastal road where Marin's car stalled beneath a grey afternoon sky. She had insisted on driving herself to Eli's school. Dominic had assigned a discreet escort anyway. Marin had been angry about it until the first SUV appeared behind her and a second blocked the road ahead. Men stepped out. Not Virelli men. Moreau men. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled of ocean and engine oil. Marin locked the doors with shaking fingers. Eli was not in the car. Thank God. Her phone rang. "Dominic." She answered with trembling hands. "Don't hang up," he said. "How did you know?" "Your escort stopped responding." A man approached her window and tapped the glass with a gun. Marin's breath caught. Dominic's voice lowered. "Marin, I'm here. Look at me." "What?" Not at him. At the rearview mirror. She looked. Far behind the Moreau SUV. Headlights appeared through the mist. Black. Fast. Many. Dominic's voice stayed calm. "Unlock nothing. Say nothing. When I tell you, get down." The man at her window shouted. Marin could not hear the words over her own pulse. Then Dominic said, "Now." She dropped. The world exploded into motion. Engines roared. Doors slammed. Men shouted. Tires screamed against wet pavement. Something struck glass but did not break through. Marin curled low in the footwell. Hands over her head. Breathing like a woman trying to keep her soul inside her body. Then the door opened. She screamed and swung blindly. A hand caught her wrist. "Marin." "Dominic." She looked up. He stood in the open doorway. Rain mist silvering his black coat. His eyes wild, for the first time since she had known him. Not with rage. With fear. "For here. You re-safe," he said. She stared at him. Shaking so hard, she could not answer. His gaze moved over her face. Her shoulders. Her hands. Checking for injury with a controlled panic that betrayed him more than any confession could have. Then he reached for her. Slowly, giving her time to refuse. She did not. Dominic lifted her out of the car as if she weighed nothing. Though she had spent her life being made to feel too much. Too big. Too heavy. Too inconvenient. Too hard to love. In his arms. For one dangerous second. She felt none of that. She felt held. And that frightened her more than the men on the road. He carried her to his SUV, while his guards handled the aftermath behind them. Marin did not look back. She had no desire to see the cost of being protected by a man like Dominic Varelli. Inside the SUV, he wrapped his coat around her shoulders. "You disobeyed me," he said. Her laugh came out broken. "I'm sorry. Was I supposed to thank you for assigning secret guards?" "Yes." "Despite everything." She almost smiled. Then her face crumpled. Dominic moved closer. Then stopped himself. That restraint undid her. "I hate this," she whispered. "I hate your world. I hate that Eli needs guards. I hate that your enemies know my name. I know. And I hate that I feel safer when you re-near me." Dominic went still. Outside, rain began again. Soft against the roof. Marin wished she could take the words back. Dominic's voice was lower when he answered. "You should not." "I know. I am not a safe man." "No," she said, looking at him through tears. "But you are becoming safe to me. That is the problem." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Dominic reached out and brushed one tear from her cheek with his thumb. Not possessive. Not claiming. Almost reverent. "Marin," he said. And her name sounded dangerous in his mouth because of how gently he said it. The driver's door opened. The moment broke. Dominic pulled back first. But after that day, everything changed. Not quickly. Not simply. Marin did not fall into his arms because he rescued her. She was too smart for that. Too tired. Too protective of Eli, Dominic did not become soft overnight. He remained feared, controlled, violent when his world required it, silent when men begged for answers. But with Marin, the silence changed. He began arriving earlier to Isabella's room and staying longer after. He learned the taps. He practiced signs badly at first, then better. He sat while Isabella wrote, instead of asking Marin to translate everything. The first time Isabella answered him directly, and he understood without help. The old woman smiled. Dominic looked like the smile hurt him. Marin saw that and looked away. Some tenderness felt too private to witness. Ellie, meanwhile, decided Dominic was probably a vampire, but a polite one. Dominic accepted this assessment without argument. "Do you own the ocean?" Eli asked one morning while eating pancakes in the mansion kitchen. "No." "Do you want to?" "No." "Do mafia bosses eat cereal?" "Sometimes." "What kind?" Dominic paused too long. Eli pointed his fork at him. "You don't know." "Do you?" Marin laughed before she could stop herself. Dominic looked at her. The sound changed his face, not into softness. Into hunger he immediately tried to hide. Marin stopped laughing. Her pulse did not. Winter settled over Newport with grey skies and white breath against windows. The mansion, once cold as a museum, began to warm in small ways. Isabella's boards were placed in every room. Staff learned basic signs. Anyone who spoke over her was dismissed. Anyone who moved her board was gone before sunset. Marin stayed. Not because Dominic asked. Because Isabella took her hand one night and tapped twice. Then wrote, "Stay if you choose. Not if afraid." Choice. That word had become the center of everything. Dominic offered her a new position as Isabella's personal advocate. Not a servant. Her pay tripled. Eli's school was secured. His asthma medicine was covered. A guard watched from a distance. Never close enough to make him feel trapped, Marin accepted with conditions. "My son does not become a Virelli accessory." "No." "He goes to normal school." "Yes." "He does not learn to fear ordinary life." Dominic's eyes warmed slightly. "That may be the wisest rule ever spoken in this house. And I don't answer to men who think money makes them God. Then you will have trouble with half my relatives." "I already do." He almost smiled. Their love began like that. With arguments. With boundaries. With near touches that stopped before becoming too much. With Dominic standing outside her small guest cottage in the rain one night because she had been too shaken after a nightmare to sleep, but refusing to enter until she opened the door herself. "You can come in," she said. "I know." "Then why are you still outside?" "Because if I enter every time I want to, you'll never know whether this is still your choice." Marin stared at him. Rain dripped from his black coat. His dark hair was wet. The most dangerous man in Rhode Island stood on her porch like a sinner waiting for permission. She opened the door wider. "Then come in because I choose it." He did. He did not touch her. He sat across from her at the kitchen table until dawn, while Eli slept in the next room and the ocean threw itself against the cliffs below. They talked about Isabella, about Eli, about grief, about the terrible exhaustion of being responsible for everyone and still feeling like you had failed the people who mattered most. Dominic told her only one thing about the attack that took Isabella's voice. "It happened because I trusted someone who smiled too easily." Marin understood. Vivienne reminded her of that. Yes. And you? His eyes lifted. She reminded me that guilt makes men blind. Marin wanted to reach for him. She did not. Not yet. A week later, Dominic saw another man make her laugh. It was a harmless moment. Carlo had brought Eli a toy ship, and the guard made some dry comment about Dominic's inability to dress in colors other than black. Marin laughed. Carlo laughed too. Dominic entered the room and stopped. The temperature changed. Marin saw it instantly. So did Carlo, who suddenly remembered somewhere else he needed to be. After he left, Marin crossed her arms. Do not do that. Dominic looked at her. Do what? Make men afraid because I laughed. His jaw tightened. I did not enjoy it. My laugh. His comfort with it. The honesty should have annoyed her. It did. It also warmed something dangerous inside her. You don't own my laughter. No, he said. The word cost him. Then he stepped closer, stopping inches away. But I want to be the reason for it. Marin's breath caught. Dominic's eyes dropped to her mouth. For one suspended second. The mansion. The guards. The war. The past. All of it vanished. Then Eli shouted from the hallway. Mom. Isabella says my spelling is criminal. Marin stepped back fast. Dominic turned away, breathing once through his nose. Your son has timing, he said. He gets that from me. No, Dominic murmured. You would have been more merciful. By early spring, the Moreau threat was gone. Not publicly. Publicly. There were business adjustments, port inspection, resignations, a scandal involving financial records, a few quiet arrests. Privately, the Moreau family lost the roots they had hoped to control through marriage. Vivienne left the country under circumstances no one discussed in front of Marin. Dominic told her only this. She cannot reach you. Marin believed him. Not because he was gentle, because he was not. That was the contradiction she had to make peace with. Dominic's violence was not romantic. It was not something she admired. But his restraint mattered. His honesty mattered. He did not ask her to pretend his world was clean. He only asked whether she could stand beside him, knowing he would spend the rest of his life keeping the dirt from Eli's hands. She did not answer for a long time. Dominic waited. That, more than anything, made her love him. The final choice came in the dining hall. Isabella requested dinner there on a Friday evening. Nearly 5 months after Vivienne's exposure, Marin thought it was a terrible idea. Dominic thought it was worse. Eli thought any room with haunted rich people candles should be avoided. Isabella tapped once at all of them. No. So dinner happened. Not an engagement dinner. Not a mafia alliance. Not a performance. Just family. Isabella wore blue. Eli sat beside her with the serious expression of a boy who had appointed himself assistant translator. Rosa brought too much food. Dominic sat at the head of the table, but the chair no longer made him look lonely. Marin sat across from him every time their eyes met. She looked away first. Near dessert, Isabella placed her palm flat on the table. Everyone stopped. She pointed to her writing board. Marin handed it to her, but Isabella pushed the pen toward Dominic first. He frowned. Mama, She tapped twice, then pointed to the empty chair beside him, then to Marin. Marin's heart began to pound. "Isabella," she whispered. The old woman ignored her and began to write. Her hand was slow, but steadier than it had been that terrible night. "I want my son to marry Marin, if Marin chooses him freely." The room stopped breathing. Eli's eyes widened. Rosa crossed herself. Dominic did not move. His gaze stayed on the board for a long moment, before rising to his mother. "Mama." Isabella wrote again. "Not servant. Not debt. Family." Marin's face burned. "I can see." Dominic stood slowly. He did not come too close. That distance nearly broke her. "Marin," he said quietly, "you do not have to answer anything tonight." Tears filled her eyes. Of course he would say the one thing that made it impossible to run. For years, men had wanted answers from her. Commitments, sacrifice, gratitude, forgiveness, smaller needs, a smaller life, a smaller version of herself. Dominic was giving her space. Isabella pushed the board toward Marin. There was another line beneath the first. "My son needs a woman who tells him the truth. Marin needs a man who will never ask her to abandon her child." Eli looked up. "Mom," he whispered. "Is Nonna Isabella asking if Don Dominic can be my dad?" The room broke softly. Marin covered her mouth. Half laugh, half sob. Dominic looked at Eli. For the first time since Marin had known him, the feared Dominic Varelli looked afraid of a 9-year-old boy's answer. "Only if your mother wanted that," Dominic said. "And only if you did too." Eli considered this with grave seriousness. "Would I have to wear black?" "No." "Would Mom still be allowed to tell you when you wrong?" "She already does." "Would Nonna Isabella live with us?" Isabella tapped twice so hard the board jumped. "Yes." Eli nodded like a businessman closing a deal. "Then maybe it's okay." Everyone laughed through tears. Dominic's eyes found Marin. No command, no arrogance, no expectation. Just a man feared by an entire coast, standing before the only woman whose yes he would not take by force. "I will not pretend I deserve you because my mother says so," he said. "I will not pretend my world is simple. It is not. I have enemies. I have sins. I have a name people fear." Marin's tears slipped free. Dominic continued. "But I know this. I do not want you because you saved my mother. I do not want you because I owe you. I want you because when everyone else saw silence, you heard a woman. When everyone else saw a servant, you stood like a mother. When I saw power, you showed me responsibility. You saw my mother. You saw Eli. And somehow, when I deserved it least, you saw me." Marin could not look away. "And if one day," he said, voice lower. "Now, not because of gratitude, not because of fear, not because my mother wishes it, but because you choose it. If one day you can imagine a life beside me, I will spend the rest of mine proving that neither you nor your son will ever stand alone again." No one spoke. Even the candles seemed still. Marin looked at Isabella, the woman who had lost her voice but not her will. She looked at Eli, the child she had chosen over every easier life. Then she looked at Dominic, the dangerous man who had learned that love, without listening, was only another form of pride. I spent years refusing any love that asked me to give up my son, she said. Dominic's voice was immediate. I would never ask that. And I will not enter this house as charity. Never. And I will not be owned. His eyes darkened. No one owns you. If I say yes, it will be with truth. With Eli. With Isabella. With no secrets moved out of reach. Dominic stepped closer, slowly enough that she could stop him. She did not. Then say yes only if you want me, he said. Marin's hands trembled. Isabella watched with tears in her eyes. Eli slipped his small hand into hers. Marin took one breath. Then not one day, she whispered. Tonight. Dominic's face changed. Not with victory, with disbelief, with tenderness so raw, it hurt to see. Marin. Yes, she said, slowly, honestly, but yes. Isabella tapped twice. Again, 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 until everyone laughed through tears. Dominic took Marin's hand like a man receiving something sacred, not taking something owed. He lifted her fingers to his lips and kissed them softly. Eli groaned. Do I have to watch this? Isabella tapped once. No. Then she pointed to his cake. He happily obeyed. Months later, Marin married Dominic in the garden behind the mansion. With the Atlantic shining blue beyond the cliffs and roses moving softly in the wind. There were no false allies, no hungry families measuring marble columns, no woman in ivory pretending love was ownership. Only trusted people. Rosa crying into a handkerchief, Carlo standing guard with suspiciously wet eyes, Eli holding Isabella's writing board like it was a royal document, and Isabella herself in blue. The silver cross at her throat catching the sunlight. When the officiant asked for blessings, Isabella lifted her board. Her hand moved slowly, but every word was clear. Family is who protects your voice when the world refuses to hear you. Dominic bowed his head. Marin held Eli's hand. Isabella tapped twice. Yes, that was how Marin Hayes, the plus-size caregiver who entered the mansion to protect another woman's voice, found her own. Not because the danger vanished, not because the mafia world became gentle, not because love erased every wound, but because a silent mother refused to be powerless. A frightened woman chose truth over fear. A little boy reminded them what courage was for. And a mafia boss finally learned that the strongest voice in his empire had never needed to shout. Vivienne Moreau thought silence meant weakness. She was wrong. Silence had been watching. Silence had been waiting.